Okay, hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being here for this, I believe, one of the most important press conferences we'll have. Today we're going to be introducing a number of approaches, two of which will be encompassed in bills, to affect a positive outcome in education for the state of Alaska. As we know, we can always do better in education. We have a number of issues that we're dealing with currently in education. Everything from performance. This is one of the reasons why we introduced the reading bill last year. And through bipartisan support, we got that reading bill passed, the READS Act. This is why we're having conversations now in Juneau about what's the future of education going to look like. There's a number of bills that have been introduced by individual legislators in Juneau. We appreciate that. We think the more on the table, the more I think we have a robust conversation as we form our educational system and reform it for the next, hopefully, 10, 15, 20 years. As you can see, we have a lot of interested folks in Alaska regarding education. Today, with us today, we have a number of, obviously, children, parents, grandparents. We have retired teachers, administrators, board members, and other elected officials. And they're here today to show support for aspects of this bill. And we're doing this for the kids. We always say that, but the reality is that's really why we should be doing what we're doing and everything we do in the state of Alaska. So a couple of things that we're going to be looking at, and we'll get into some detail here now in just a moment. But funds to DED, to affect reading and other educational initiatives. We'll talk about that in greater detail in a moment. We're going to introduce classroom teacher incentive pay for those teachers that are in the classroom. As we know, it's getting harder and harder to find people that want to go into the classroom. It's getting harder and harder to find folks that want to teach, period, and stay where they're at. So this is a recruitment and retention approach that we hope will provide fruit. It'll be an approach over 3 years, and a lot of this approach in terms of making sure that teachers have the resources to actually live in a place like the state of Alaska really comes out of a lot of research that we've been doing over the last several years. We're also going to be talking about parental rights. As many of you know, I've been a champion of parental rights for some time as a senator, and even before that, as a school board president, as a teacher, as a principal, superintendent, and as a parent of 3 girls. Most of you know that I taught and was a superintendent and was a school board president, amongst other things I've done in education, both in rural and urban Alaska. So I think I could say this without any braggadocio, but probably out of all the governors the state's had, probably the one governor that's had more experience in education in its various levels throughout the state of Alaska. So this is near and dear to me, and near and dear to me for the future of Alaska and our kids. And then we're going to talk briefly about what we're going to do in the future with regard to student rights, teacher rights. It's very difficult nowadays to teach in some of our classrooms across this country, and Alaska is no exception, but teachers also need to be looked after and protected. And so that's what we're going to talk about here a little bit today as well. So as we said, and we mean it, that education is a priority. This is why we passed the READS Act last year, and now we're going to be proposing an additional $17 million to go to the Department of Education and Early Development. $5 million of that would be to support the READS Act, conferences, trainings, materials, and just ongoing professional development through the Department of Education focused on reading. We're going to ask for $3 million to develop an alternative to teacher prep, licensure, and certification, to grow the pool of potential teachers and make the process of getting certified and going into the classroom less onerous than maybe it is now. We're also going to look at putting in $3 million for career and technical grants to train for jobs here in Alaska, a $1 million grant to the Alaska Resource Education Group so that our students are made aware of the fact that Alaska is a resource state and the benefits that Alaska derives from being a resource state. As many of you know, I have 3 daughters that are in the resource industry. 3 of them work at Red Dog Mine. But Alaska being a resource state, we think it's important that our students have an understanding as to why and the benefits of being a resource state. We're also going to be asking for $5 million to go into ANSEP. great programs with the University of Alaska, because the feedback we're getting also is that we're in need of engineers across the board here in the state of Alaska to help build the state of Alaska. This is just the beginning. We know we have a lot more to do, but in combination with some of the bills that are already on the table in Juneau, I think this is going to add to a great, robust discussion. So the first thing I want to talk about is, in detail, is the teacher incentive program. When I was a teacher, superintendent I should say, back in 2001, we had a teacher housing issue in rural Alaska. And so myself and our federal delegation, at the time it was Senator Murkowski and others, we worked on a housing approach that allowed the private sector and some of our school districts to partner. We also took the same approach with AHFC at that time under Dan Fautsky. The result was that we got a couple programs started that have provided housing in rural Alaska through this public-private partnership, and we want to expand upon that. And we did so last year by putting more money in our professional housing approach to rural Alaska through AHFC. But obviously we have to do more. When I first came to Alaska and was looking for a job as a teacher in the early 80s, we had 700 openings that year that I was looking for a job. Shortages of teachers is not a new phenomenon to Alaska, but it's one that's long overdue that we seriously have to take a look at and try and address. This is one of the reasons why back in 2020 and 2021, I commissioned a group and some research to look into teacher retention and recruitment. And as a result, an action plan was put forth by the folks that we contracted. And one of the major areas that teachers said that they believed would help with retention and recruitment would be more resources for them to be able to deal with, especially in rural Alaska, the high cost of living. And so that's what this does. And I'm going to explain to you how this actually works. So there's going to be 3 tiers in this approach for this incentive and retention grant. And it's going to be divided into three areas: remote and rural, rural and urban. So in the remote and rural areas of the state are school districts, and we'll have them listed. We're looking at providing $15,000 per year per teacher that's in the classroom in our remote and rural school districts. In our rural school districts, we're looking at $10,000 per year for our teachers that are in the classroom. And in our urban school districts, $5,000 per year for 3 years. This is a 3-year approach. So you can see this is a significant amount of money that's going to be put in the classrooms in the hopes that it affects the recruitment and retention issues. We'll be studying this over the next 3 years, if once again the legislature approves this, to really find out how much this approach and to what degree this approach really affects our ability to retain and recruit teachers. We're targeting our most rural school district because oftentimes they're the ones that suffer the most from recruitment and retention issues, as well as performance issues. And so this approach, once again, I think is going to be an exciting way to actually take a look at, study, and see if, in fact, the dollars put into this program actually provide fruit. We're hopeful. We're cautiously hopeful, but again, we're going to have to do the research over the next several years. This is about a $58 million spend from 25 to 27. It's going to cost about $131,000 to set up. What happens after that 3 years? That'll be a question for future legislators to talk about, after they examine the research that we do and the outcomes that we get from that research. The second part of this approach today, and a second bill we're going to be introducing, has to do with parental rights. I'm no stranger to parental rights. 2016, we got a parental rights bill passed. We believe it is absolutely crucial for parents to be engaged in the education of their kids, not from a theoretical perspective, but actually discussions with the schools, participation with the schools, two-way communication between teachers and parents and school officials. So as a result of that, we are going to be introducing a bill that will ensure that this occurs. The bill that we passed in 2016 was an opt-out bill from things like sex education and other issues that a parent may find sensitive. That was an opt-out approach. As a result of things that have been happening since then across the country and here in Alaska, we think it's crucial that parents have informed consent. In other words, parents need to know what's going on in classrooms, programs, after-school activities regarding sensitive issues such as sex, gender, in our schools, and parents need to be able to say whether they want their children to be part of this or whether they don't. You know, some folks would say these are, they are sensitive issues, but they're issues also of values and family values. And parents need to be part of it. They need to be part of the discussion, and they need to be able to give their consent. There should never be a case where a parent sends their kids to school and the child comes back having discussions about things they learned in school that may be a sensitive issue or an affront to a parent's values. This is a way to forge, I think, a closer cooperation between parents, teachers, and the school district. Part of this bill would also prohibit sex and gender education before the 4th grade. We think it's crucial that we focus on reading. We think it's crucial that we focus on math. These issues can be discussed with the parents and the children at home, and after 4th grade, these issues can be taught in the schools. But again, the parents need to be part of this and playing a central role to make sure that, again, there's a tight cooperation between schools and parents. Also, the bill will affirm that parents have the right to access school records, including their child's physical, medical, and mental health records. Again, anything else other than what we're doing here regarding parents could end up being counterproductive, and we want this again to be a close cooperation between parents and the schools. The bill also requires school districts to ensure the safety and privacy of students in locker rooms and restrooms. And this bill will also guarantee the privacy and safety through the separation of students by biological sex in single occupant facilities. Parents will have to be notified of what's being taught. Parents will have to, once again, give informed consent for their kids to be part of any program, any class, any club that has to do with, sex education or gender. And then going forward, again, this spring and summer, we're going to work with teachers on putting together a Teacher's Bill of Rights. We believe that it's probably one of the most important jobs there is that we have in our society. We have to make sure that teachers feel that they are supported, that they are protected. We'll also be working on a Student Bill of Rights as well this summer. So with that, I'd be more than happy to open this up for questions, and I'm going to turn this over to Jeff.
Okay, thanks, Governor. We'll take our first question from Elena Sims with Alaska's News Source.
Hi there. You talked about growing the pool of teachers working in Alaska classrooms and dedicating $3 million to licensure. Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit more specifically about how you're helping to make the pathway to certification smoother in Alaska?
Yeah, so it's difficult for a lot of our folks, especially rural folks, paraprofessionals, for example, aides in the classroom, to leave their job, then go, let's say, to the University of Alaska in either Fairbanks or Anchorage to work on their teaching certificate. What we're hoping to do is be able to put together a program that's more of an apprenticeship, that those individuals that may be paraprofessionals or others in their community are able to be paid and educated at the same time without having to leave their families or without having to leave the schools. This is a different approach. It's more of an apprenticeship approach that you see in other types of professions and blue-collar work. And so, for example, Tennessee put together a program that a lot of states are now taking a look at that can make this route to becoming a teacher less onerous, especially for folks in rural Alaska.
Okay, our next question is from Ira Samuels with the Anchorage Daily News.
Thank you. My question is about the parental rights bill. Some of the elements in it sound pretty similar to a bill from Florida. Curious if you can talk a little bit about if you saw Florida's bill as a model for what you're proposing here. That bill in Florida has been called by opponents as the Don't Say Gay bill and has been criticized as something that sort of singles out LGBTQ youth. I'm curious if you can talk about any concerns you might have about how this might impact impact LGBTQ youth in Alaska?
Yeah, it's a great question. So once again, I've been working on this my entire career. 2016 predates anything done in Florida. We had one of the first parental rights approaches here in Alaska before any other state. This is many, many years ago. That's 7 years ago. Alaska's approach is going to be different, let's say, than a California approach or a Florida approach. California may, or a state like California may use the instruments of the state, the schools, to teach and mandate certain things occur in the classroom, regardless of what the parents want. A Florida approach, for example, may prohibit certain things from being taught in the classrooms, regardless of what a parent wants. What we're saying here is the school districts in the state of Alaska, it's a different approach. We believe in local control, but we believe in parental control. So nobody knows their kids better than a parent. As a parent of 3 girls, I can tell you I know my girls better than anyone else. And so any idea that this is a don't say gay bill or this is anti-anything, it's not, it's pro-parent. Engage the parents, let them know what you want to teach their kids in school, how you want to address their children in school, and inform them of what's happening. And the chances are you may get some parents that agree with that and want to be part of it. But you also may get parents that don't agree with that. And their rights should be respected. So it's going to be a little different than what California may be doing, a little bit different than what Florida may be doing.
Okay, we're going to take questions on the Zoom line right now. Let's start with Shauna Crondall with Alaska Education Update.
Hi, this is Shauna Crondall. In this morning's Senate Majority Press Conference, Senator Tobin said that these bills would be tied in with Senate Bill 52, the BSA increase bill, and I'm wondering if you could comment on that and also comment on your support for an increase to the BSA.
So I'm not sure exactly what Senator Tobin was saying, so I would have to talk with her and maybe staff. But we've always said that we need more resources in education. We may disagree on how much, we may disagree on where that goes. And so again, putting these bills on the table and these other concepts on the table, I think broadens the conversation. And again, the legislature represents Alaska. It's a diverse state. We have a diverse legislature. But I think in the end, I think we're going to be able to come together on a couple things. What that's going to look like, that's going to be through the committee process and discussions. So that's going to be hard to answer at this point. But what we do know is we need to retain our teachers in the classroom. And that's why we're making that a focus in our approach. And that we also need to make sure that parents feel that they are an integral part of the process, they're respected, and their wishes are respected. So again, the conversations will determine what the end product is. And quite frankly, I look forward to those conversations.
Okay. Now let's go to Sean McGuire with the Anchorage Daily News down in Juneau. Sean?
Thanks very much. Governor, I have a question about the transgender aspects of the policy you're announcing today. I'm curious because I understand there have been some complaints in Anchorage about its transgender policy, particularly a provision within it that says that parents don't need to necessarily be notified if they are told, if a teacher is told from a child that they have transitioned or that they want to transition. Is this specifically written to target Anchorage School District?
This is an interesting question, Sean. You know why? Because the question right before it was that Florida's bill has been tabbed a don't say gay bill. Nowhere in the past 15 minutes have I mentioned transgender individuals. I never brought transgender individuals up. I brought up parents. I brought up issues of gender discussions and issues of sex education discussions, but not about transgender individuals. And let's be clear. The state of Alaska is unique in its approach to just about everything, including people in our relationships with each other. I believe strongly that everyone has the right to pursue happiness, the right to life, and the right to enjoy what we have here in this country, in this great state of Alaska. So this isn't targeting anybody. This is really reaffirming parental rights and that the parents of these children have a right to know what their children are doing in school, what topics are being taught, and if there's any issues that are sensitive, that they need to be part of that discussion and be able to affirm whether they want their children part of these discussions. That's what this is. This is not against anyone. This is not anti-anything. And we'll see if that message gets through. I have a feeling that we'll be hearing more that this is an anti-group or an anti-person bill, and that'll be unfortunate if that's how it's characterized.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Go ahead, Sean.
Governor, is your support, or are you signing off on a BSA increase contingent on this parental notification bill passing?
You know, Sean, that's a hypothetical. We have to see what the conversations result in, and then I'd be able to give everybody a much clearer picture at that point. But we're just introducing this approach now. So we want to give it a little time so we have the discussions, and we'll see what occurs. But again, I think it's very important that parents have rights and that teachers have the resources to want to be a teacher. And that's what we're talking about here today.
Okay, up next, Yareth Rosen with the Alaska Beacon. Yareth, did you have a question? Okay, let's go to Mark Sabatini with the Juneau Empire. Mark?
Hi. You talked about teacher retention, Governor, and something that's been seen with a lot of states that have passed or are examining these parental rights things is giving parents that much control ends up discouraging or deterring or getting established teachers to leave the profession. And so my question is, are you doing more harm than good by saying you want to lure teachers with these bonuses, but then enacting a policy that a lot of teachers, especially those with experience, are going to find discouraging and might encourage them to seek work elsewhere?
Yeah, the answer is no. Standing here with me today are teachers. I'm gonna do this one last time because I know it's difficult for some to accept. I was a teacher. That was my profession. I was a principal. That was my profession. I was a superintendent. I was a school board president. I'm raising my voice because after years and years of listening to people seem to imply that I don't know anything about this area, really does get a little bothersome at times. I'm a parent. I repeat, I'm a parent of 3 girls that were born in rural Alaska. I've taught, I've been a principal, rural, urban Alaska. I can tell you as a teacher and a parent, I wanted parents involved. I wanted parents to know what was going on. I cannot conceive, Mark, of a teacher wanting to hide things from a parent. If so, then we got a huge disconnect and a huge problem in philosophy. But standing with me today, if you don't believe me, there's teachers, there's school officials, there's elected officials. And all I would ask is this, when we go forward in this debate, that you don't discount these people or me because we may not agree on the narrative that some are trying to put forward. These are Alaskans. These are parents. I don't know if you can see, but these are children too. That's what this is about. So this idea that anything that I do or others do kind of tears things apart or is divisive, we're trying to bring people together. We're trying to bring parents together, teachers together. So as we go forward, I would just ask once again that the media and others just have an honest appraisal of what we're trying to do.
Okay, now let's go to Becky Bohrer with the Associated Press. Becky?
Governor, I wanted to ask about the retention piece of it.
Sure.
What would stop a teacher from, after this period, leaving anyways? I mean, would teachers be asked to repay the money? I guess I'm just wondering how you see offering a cash payment as that's over 3 years as a tool for keeping teachers.
Because in discussions with teachers, in reviewing the teacher retention study that was done, in discussions with other officials nationally and governors, being a teacher myself in rural Alaska and urban Alaska, and given the fact that inflation is on the rise, we believe that through all of that, for all the resources and discussions I just mentioned, that we believe that there will be teachers that want to stay. What they do beyond 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, there's no such thing as a lifetime contract. We can't guarantee anything. But we can start off with some incentives, and this summer we can have discussions with teachers and focus groups to ask them and get drilled down, what else would you need to want to be a teacher in Alaska and stay in Alaska? We know that housing is a problem. We're working on it. We've been working on it. I've been working on it since 2001. We know that working conditions also may be an issue, that meaning relationships with supervisors, et cetera. We need to drill down. We need to get the answers. But Becky, in answer to your question, let's find out. I have a very strong suspicion that this incentive approach that we can study on retention, recruitment and retention, will actually lower the loss rate. Remember, I came in the early 80s and we were looking for 700 teachers. It's become a little more difficult because of the labor issues involving those that are going into teaching, but I think this is an approach that has merit, and I think this is an approach that will provide fruit, but we have to study it and we'll have to see.
Okay, our next question is from Haley Lehman with the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. Haley, your question, please.
Good afternoon. I'm curious what the study on teacher retention will look like over the next few years, practically for teachers and administrators.
Yeah, so we started one in 2021. We have some data from that. And then what we would do is go to focus groups. We would actually have focus groups of teachers and potentially other staff members. We're going to start with teachers. We're also going to have a approach to student rights as well. Because once again, students have certain rights and certain expectations. So we want to make sure that those are clearly established so everyone knows what they are. But we'll do work with teachers. We want to find out why they would leave the profession. Why did they come in the profession? What will help to keep them in the profession? What are their concerns going forward? What are some policy considerations that we need to take a look at? Just a whole array of questions will be asked so we can ascertain and then build responses to their input that they give us. So focus groups will be a big part of it.
Okay, and our last question is from Katie Anastas with KTOO in Juneau.
Hi, Governor Dunleavy. I have a question about the piece of the parent rights bill related to locker rooms and bathrooms. How does physical separation of students by biological sex affect safety?
Historically, we have separated bathrooms to ensure that there is privacy for individuals. We also have considerations going forward. I just had a discussion yesterday with a mother who has a daughter that has a medical condition and would like to be able to use a restroom on her own because of the medical condition that she has. This is not just an issue of sex or gender. This is also a whole array, too many issues to really enumerate here and now, in which individuals may want to use a particular bathroom for personal reasons. And so I think those folks have been forgotten in this recent conversation. But safety really means, do people feel comfortable going into our schools, using the restrooms, being in classrooms, et cetera. School safety is actually a much broader topic than I think most people think. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, and I know this is going to generate a lot of discussion, and it should, because it's very important, the approaches we're putting forth here today. I just want folks listening, and especially the media, to remember what you see here today and what you'll hear going forward. Today with us, we have kids, we have parents. They weren't coerced to be here. There was no arm twisting to get them here. I'm sure in the future you'll see larger crowds of parents and kids and educators. Again, behind me I have state board members, local board members. I have teachers, retired teachers. I have administrators. I have the incoming commissioner of education. I have state school board members. All of us want our kids to succeed. All of us want to work together. There shouldn't be a situation where, once again, the schools feel like they have to play a game of cat and mouse with parents, that somehow they know better than the very people that had these children and are raising these children or are stewards to these children. I think that is a narrative that's got to be nipped in the bud. The other issue, of course, is we've got to attack the teacher recruitment and retention issue up front. Will there be discussions about administrators as well? Yes, I was an administrator. I was a superintendent. I was a department head. I was a principal, assistant principal. Those jobs are not easy as well, but we have to start somewhere. So I would just ask for an honest conversation. I would ask that you don't put words in my mouth, that this is an attack on certain groups of people. This is not an attack on anyone. This is showing support to parents and kids. This is showing support to teachers and others in the educational industry. So let's not try and make this something it's not, and let's have a decent conversation about where the state's going to go with its educational approaches. But I'm looking forward to the conversation. I'm going to ask if there's anyone behind me that wants to say a few words. There may or may not be, but I want to be able to open up this opportunity if anyone would like to come forward and say something. Come on up. And if you can just say who you are and if you are a parent or a teacher.
Okay, and a microphone. Hi, I'm Lisa Stewart. I'm a past teacher, counselor, behavior support, in administration, was in a mentoring project, 5 years, mentoring 60 of our newest teachers, trying to retain quality teachers. Currently working as a counselor, and I'm just really grateful to be here and to hear about all the work that the governor and legislation has been doing on these policies that ensure parent rights. I heard the governor say earlier about just things are evolving so quickly, and I couldn't agree more that in preparing kids for the 21st century is a huge job. We're not just preparing them academically, but in life, in their jobs, in the community, in their families, and probably most important, just with themselves, confidence and a belief in themselves. How do we do that without parents? I mean, our parents are the first teacher, the most important teacher. We learn from them. We learn about the culture of the home, about the family, and it just helps us to grow kids in the direction we need to grow them. So really grateful about that and the money being spent on the Reading Act and, of course, to retain quality teachers. So a lot of things in my wheelhouse. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Christine Google, and I'm a mom of 7, grandmother of 30, a past teacher, counselor, mentor. I've worked in Alaska prisons for 12 and a half years, so I have a lot of perspectives about this. I know that ACE training, the teaching of teachers about the things that create the biggest challenges for children includes broken homes. Kids need to be in a family. If they are in a family that's involved in caring, they just flat do better. Every student in school, teachers with experience know that children that have their parents involved in the school, that are actively a part of their education, thrive, and they thrive better, way better than those that do not. We have struggling communities, and they're largely struggling because of broken homes and the erosion of the whole family network. And so I think it is extremely important that the governor has given us this open door to, as parents, as grandparents, as active community members, we need to get on board, contact our representatives, our senators. I appeal to the legislature to give it a real attentive listen when you are contacted by people that are simply wanting to reinforce what scientific and psychological and educational studies all underscore, that children in a family, strong family unit, excel and will achieve the good in their community and in their families, and they're going to succeed in education. That is the state policy on education, includes those 3 core things. So it is very, very important for Alaska. Thanks.
Anybody else? Going once? Can you just let folks know who you are?
My name is Song Goins, and I'm a home educator. And for a time, my children did attend the ASD, and it was a good experience for all of us. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. It really is I believe, a needed thing. There's a lot that can go on, and, parents do need to be involved and communicated with. And it is very, very important because, like he said, parents know their children best, but also they love their children and they want the best for them. And so to have that open communication with parents and the school and teachers is very, very important. So just thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come up? Going once? Going twice? Okay, we're gonna conclude here in just a moment, but I want to just leave everyone with a thought. Parents are not the enemy. Parents are not the enemy. Kids are a good thing. Families are a good thing. Teachers are not the enemy. They got a difficult job. We're going to do everything we can to support our teachers. We're going to do everything we can to support our parents. And we're all hopefully going to do everything we can to support our kids. We can do better in education in Alaska. There's no doubt about it. And I don't think anyone disagrees with that. But we all have to pull together. And so, again, I'm going to reiterate, as we go forward, please don't view these folks behind me or myself as people that don't like other people. I think every one of us wants every one of us to succeed. And if we pull together, we can make that happen. But with that said, I'm excited about the upcoming discussions. I think we can do some good things with the legislature. I think the legislature wants to do good things for the people of Alaska. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about these folks being here today. These folks represent Alaska at many levels. And I look forward to the conversations with the press as we move forward. So with that, I want to thank you. And we will continue the discussions here, I'm sure, throughout the spring. If we can get folks back in the